In a world of noise, finding the signal is everything. My commitment is not just to tell you what's happening, but to provide the context you need to understand it, to separate fact from fiction, and to deliver the truth with clarity and courage. I'm your news anchor who appears quite often most of the days in a week. Join me tonight and every night for the reporting you can trust. Please do like and subscribe, also follow for everyday news to keep up to date what's happening in our world. Thank you.
Global News Digest, a world in flux amid conflict, climate and diplomacy. Today's global landscape is defined by a series of interconnected crises and diplomatic maneuvers, from the ongoing devastation in Gaza and the stalemate in Ukraine to critical climate negotiations and significant political shifts in key nations. Here is a roundup of the most pressing headlines from around the world. 1. Middle East. Escalating conflict and a deepening humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. The situation in the Gaza Strip remains the world's most urgent and tragic headline. Intense Israeli military operations continue in the southern city of Khan Yunis, which the Israel Defense Forces (IDF) have identified as a major stronghold of Hamas leadership. The fighting is occurring in densely populated urban areas, with reports of heavy casualties. The humanitarian situation has been described by the UN as apocalyptic. Over 85% of Gaza's 2.3 million population is internally displaced, facing severe shortages of food, clean water, medicine, and fuel. Despite some aid trucks entering from Egypt, the volume is described as a drop in the ocean compared to the overwhelming need. The World Health Organization, WHO, has warned of the rapid spread of infectious diseases, compounding the crisis caused by airstrikes and ground fighting. Diplomatic efforts, led by Egypt and Qatar, are ongoing to broker a new ceasefire and secure the release of more hostages held by Hamas. However, a significant gap remains between the warring parties' demands, with Israel vowing to continue until Hamas's military and governing capabilities are destroyed, and Hamas insisting on a permanent ceasefire and full Israeli withdrawal. Regionally, the conflict continues to spark violence. The Houthi rebels in Yemen have sustained their attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea, disrupting a crucial global shipping lane and prompting a US-led naval coalition to respond. Meanwhile, cross-border skirmishes between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon remain a constant threat of a wider regional war. 2. Europe. Stalled Ukraine counteroffensive and political maneuvering. In Ukraine, the conflict with Russia has settled into a grueling war of attrition along a largely static front line. Ukraine's much-anticipated summer counteroffensive has failed to achieve a decisive breakthrough, with both sides suffering heavy losses in battles reminiscent of World War I trench warfare. The primary focus for Kyiv has shifted to securing long-term Western support. President Volodymyr Zelensky has been urgently appealing to the United States and European Union to ensure that military and financial aid packages are not delayed. This appeal comes at a critical time, as political wrangling in the US Congress has stalled a new $60 billion aid package. European leaders, meanwhile, are scrambling to ramp up their own defense production capabilities to support Ukraine in what many fear will be a prolonged conflict. In a significant political development, Slovakia's newly elected Prime Minister Robert Fico has followed through on his campaign promise and halted all state military aid to Ukraine, signaling a fracture in the EU's previously united front and giving a boost to Moscow's narrative. 3. Asia-Pacific. Tensions in the South China Sea and a leadership shakeup in New Zealand. Geopolitical tensions flared again in the South China Sea, with China and the Philippines trading accusations over a collision between their vessels near the disputed Second Thomas Shoal. The Philippines accused Chinese Coast Guard ships of dangerous and blocking maneuvers, while China claimed the Philippine vessels intruded into its waters. The incident underscores the ongoing volatility in this strategic waterway, a flashpoint for US-China rivalry. In a surprising political turn, New Zealand's Prime Minister Chris Hipkins has conceded defeat after a general election victory for the Conservative National Party, led by Christopher Luxon. The election result marks a sharp rightward turn for the country, with the incoming government promising tax cuts and a rollback of some of the previous Labour government's progressive policies, including reforms to Indigenous co-governance. 4. Climate and environment. A record-breaking year, and preparations for COP28. The scientific community has released a series of stark reports confirming that 2023 is virtually certain to be the hottest year on record. From devastating wildfires in Canada and Greece to unprecedented ocean heatwaves and catastrophic flooding in Libya, the tangible impacts of climate change have dominated news cycles. All eyes are now turning to the United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP28, set to begin in Dubai. The summit is poised to be one of the most critical yet, with a central agenda item being the first ever global stocktake to assess progress since the Paris Agreement. Key debates will revolve around the language on phasing out fossil fuels, increasing financial aid from developed to developing nations, for climate adaptation, and operationalizing the Loss and Damage Fund. 5. America's U.S. political deadlock and regional challenges. In the United States, the political scene remains dominated by the impending government shutdown deadline and the ongoing impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. The House of Representatives, led by a fractious Republican majority, has struggled to pass necessary spending bills, raising the risk of a federal shutdown that could have domestic and international economic repercussions. Elsewhere in the region, Argentina is grappling with an economic crisis as it heads towards a presidential runoff election, with radical libertarian candidate Javier Milei promising to dollarize the economy. In Brazil, President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva continues to face challenges in passing his legislative agenda through a conservative-dominated Congress. 6. Africa, crisis in Sudan, and political uncertainty in Madagascar. The civil war in Sudan between the Sudanese Armed Forces, SAF, and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, continues with no end in sight. The conflict has created one of the world's worst displacement crises, pushing millions from their homes and pushing the country to the brink of famine. Efforts by regional bodies to mediate a ceasefire have so far yielded little success. In Madagascar, the country is in a tense political atmosphere ahead of a presidential election, with the incumbent President Andry Rajoelina facing significant opposition and allegations of an unfair process. In other news, technology and business. The artificial intelligence sector faces increased scrutiny from regulators in the US and EU over potential risks and ethical concerns. Meanwhile, global markets remain jittery due to persistent inflation and high interest rates. Health. The WHO has issued a warning about a sharp rise in global cholera outbreaks linked to climate change and inadequate water and sanitation infrastructure in vulnerable communities. In summary, the world today is navigating a complex web of war, diplomatic friction, and environmental urgency. The headlines paint a picture of a planet at a pivotal moment, where the decisions made in conference rooms and on battlefields will profoundly shape the stability and sustainability of the future.